Thank you for joining us on another episode of Beyond the Listing. I am your host, Jeremy Medora, and today I am sitting with
Crystal Avila.
And Crystal, you've been with Medora Photography now for a number of years.
Yeah, for like 5 years.
5 years.
Yep.
5 years.
Yep.
And it's been a journey together as we've grown as a company, getting to know you, getting to know myself more. I think we've all experienced a lot since Medora Photography came into view 11 years ago. But other than Keith, you're our longest standing employee. And we have a generally very low turnover here. Mm-hmm. But the way that we've been building the business, you've been very critical in that mission building due to the fact that you've been able to adapt to a lot of the changes that have come through as far as how we've grown over the years, as well as helping us out with new hires, mm-hmm. training them and things like that. So it's been really great having you be as involved as you have been and seeing you grow professionally and personally as well. You've matured significantly over the 5 years. And it's funny because like when we hire people on, we're generally hiring a younger audience mm-hmm. because they are in fact more adept at real estate photography as far as learning the routines and such. And to have you come in at the age that you came in and then 5 years later, here we are, there's been a significant amount of changes in your life. And just to see that journey that you've undertaken has been fantastic.
Thank you.
And so I'm just appreciative of both you as an individual, appreciative of you coming in sitting down and talking. I'm really happy to have you here.
Thank you. And I'm happy to be here. I mean, this is the job that I've had for the longest in my career, basically. It's a good sign that your employees want to stay, you know? It's pretty cool. I love this job. I have had many different photography jobs before, and that's helped me out know what I like and what I don't like. And I've found that I really like this job.
That's good.
Yeah, I really love it.
Well, we see that and our customers see that. And that's the most important part from a professional standpoint, that it does in fact impact how you perform the tasks that you need to perform. And I see that you do it very willingly, not even willingly, with gusto. You do it with passion, and we appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody in Medora Photography has a different thing that makes them tick, mm-hmm. right? And Keith just called himself out for the dainty things. When you're in the field, what makes you tick?
What makes me tick?
What really lights you up?
Honestly,
in a positive way.
Yeah, like
not the anger stuff.
I would say the little things too, like honestly straightening chairs or like if a table even is like a little bit off, like if it's not right in the middle, I'll be like, okay, let's try to wiggle it over to the side a little bit.
Sure.
What makes me tick? Animals. Okay. I love when they have pets. The
interactions.
Interactions. Like kids. Sometimes some of them are really cute.
We have 4 kids and I agree with you on that. This is not a whether or not you have or like kids. It's more along the lines of
if they're good.
Yeah. It's really situational, right?
Yeah. I always remember this one time I was doing drone for a house and the kid was like 2 or 3 years old. He already knew what a drone was. Yeah. And he was like, that's the battery. And I'm like, yes, it is. It is.
Must be one in the household, maybe?
Maybe. But he just seemed really smart.
That's funny. Yeah. So involved kids who are genuinely interested, curious kids.
Yes.
Yeah. Instead of just the simple like noise making,
yes,
kind of
or
thing,
like they're on their phone 24/7 or something.
We've actually had a significant push this summer during break for the kids to have no electronics until 5 p.m.
Ooh, okay.
We've held the line really, really well.
Yeah.
Unless there's a rain day. If it's a rain day, go ahead, just chill. We understand it's going to be an indoor day, but so they've actually ended up finding themselves outside quite a bit.
That's good.
Not because we're kicking them out of the house, but because they're bored and nothing to do.
Exactly.
And so they go and make their own fun. So that's been a good experience for us. But kids are a little bit hit and miss when it comes to their behavior patterns.
Because sometimes they just like if you take their phones away, they still do nothing.
Oh, no, they just sit there.
Yeah.
Waiting to be entertained.
Yeah, exactly. Or then they bother you and it's like, okay.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. That's exactly how it goes. So from a photography staging standpoint, you were talking about straightening chairs and tables, and we've discussed plenty of times lampshades and the low hanging fruit, so to speak, right? But from an architectural standpoint, like actual photographing the home, not necessarily its belongings, is there a particular thing that you enjoy more than others?
I would say obviously you kind of prefer a place that has more light, has more natural light, more windows, any type of wood beams or something like that will frame a picture nicely. Yep. Let's see. I don't know. I do look for a lot of the things that look pretty that might not be in every home.
Yep.
But I don't know, anything specific. I don't know.
Yeah, just more along the lines of satisfaction. You're able to take a look at the image that you captured and say, that's what I'm looking for. Okay.
Yeah. I definitely love straight lines. Whenever I take pictures of kitchens or something, you try to do at least one straight on of the sink or the stove or something.
Yep.
I would say definitely crisp, clean lines. That's what everybody looks for.
Sure.
I love, I did one house for this one realtor that she said, I don't want any wide shots. I just want those tight detail shots.
If they've clearly communicated that expectation,
right.
That's one thing, right?
Yeah.
But chasing both, that's the hard part.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. But I loved it when they said that. It's oh, okay. It makes another part of my brain turn on. Yeah. And then I basically used the zoom lens for almost the whole house and just being instead of looking at the whole house, just finding the little moments in the house.
Yep.
Not necessarily just the furniture, but also still architecture wise. If there's a library or something, you want to have the library in focus, but then maybe something else kind of behind it out of focus.
Sure.
Yeah, I love I love doing cool compositions like that. Either a flower or a vase or dishes even on the table. Just having something in focus and then just making it a cool composition.
Yeah.
And it's even having something in focus and seeing beyond it, and that gives you such a nice feeling that you're there.
Right.
And feeling of the vibe of the house, basically.
Right. Especially instead of the infinity focus, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously with a lot of the wide angle photography, we run into that a lot, where you see everything in the same shot, and the photograph has to stand on its own because of the contents of it.
Yeah.
But not necessarily something that's specifically being called out in the photo in front of you. So the difference, of course, with using the zoom lens as you're outlining is the fact that you get to really pick up on a specific element within the photograph, focus on that. Everything else is either, softened or blurred out. And so it's really calling the viewer's attention to a specific object.
Exactly. Yeah.
That definitely is something that is lacking, right, in real estate photography.
Which understandable, because you only have
subject.
you only have so much pictures that you can show.
Sure.
But that's why I love going through Instagram and seeing architectural photos like that.
Yeah.
That's when people have more fun and
For sure.
Yeah, and then show the cool photos like that.
The creative margins that they're allowed. Right?
Exactly.
And we allow them here. It's that they're not desired a lot of times by our clients.
Yeah, because some clients are don't take any of those photos. I don't need those photos, so don't take them. And I'm okay.
In fact, we even have feedback sometimes of guys, just give us 40.
Exactly.
Give us 40. Don't give us the 50 or 60. And the 50 or 60 is where you start finding those isolated photos or the creative shots that we otherwise would have to kind of omit if we just stuck to the 30 or the 40.
Right. Or if it's a humongous house, I want to do those creative photos, but I'm I know that they're going to get at least 100 photos because it's just such a big house. So it's finding that fine line of not getting too much of those, but still showing the whole house.
Yep. For sure. It's a balance.
Yeah.
It's a balance. What about style of home? So you talked a little bit about, some of the architectural designs of it.
Yeah.
But what style of home? So, we photograph everything from literally from mobile homes
Yep.
right up through Concord mansions.
Yep.
And I think at least one or two of us have done both in the same day.
Yeah.
Which is such a contrast, right?
Right.
Where do you like to land?
So I kind of like to live in. Honestly, I love a split level home. Those are really cool.
Yep.
Just having like almost like a ranch style living, but you still have the option of having that downstairs utilities.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Now to photograph.
Honestly, I love the mansions, the big houses that have wide open spaces, that you can tell that the architecture or the contractor like took time in what they were putting into this house.
Sure.
Or if they just have like a really cool feature fireplace or something like that. Just like different elements that when you walk around, you're like, oh, I'm going to take a cool picture of that later.
I agree with you that during the initial walkthrough, when you get to the property, your brain starts working immediately, thinking to yourself, like, what am I going to be seeking to do here? And sometimes, even on the initial walkthrough, you don't see the shot.
Yes.
You see kind of like, all right, I get the kind of general concept of what I'm going to try to accomplish here, but I want to move around the room when I'm taking the photos to really get the shot, because I just have the general concept in my head, but I don't have the exact. Yeah.
Or even like, obviously, like we take pictures in horizontals in landscape. So like when you're walking around, I usually like kind of see the photos in vertical wise, but kind of like it really depends on what it is. Like sometimes like let's say it's a doorway or something. I'm like, oh, okay, I want to take a really cool picture of that. But then I see it through the camera and I'm like, oh wait, no, that would be a really good picture for vertical, so it's not going to work for horizontal. Let me just move on to something else. Yeah. Because it's just like when you're seeing with your eye, you obviously have such a big peripheral vision that you see a lot more than what the camera can see.
Of course. I know that, but I can't honestly tell you that I ever look at things vertically.
Really?
I don't.
Honestly, I kind of think it's like because I am on my phone a lot that I do see a lot of things in vertical.
That's fair. So, that is absolutely fair.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or like I have a lot of realtors come up to me and be like, oh, can you take a picture of this? And they show me a picture on their phone or something. And I'm like, okay, I can, but just remember you're taking that in vertical. So you're seeing a lot more. I'm going to have to take it this way, landscape ways. And they might not be happy with how it looks like.
No, because it loses its translation.
Exactly.
Right? And when you're isolating, like you talked about a little bit ago with the whole focus isolation, when you're isolating something with a composition, whether it be horizontal or vertical, you're intentionally cropping out things that don't complement what you're trying to photograph, right? Or those other things throw it off of balance and therefore it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Very rarely does a kitchen sink and window combination work in a horizontal format.
Yeah.
That's usually a vertical format, right? However, the horizontal format would be you have the island here with the stove or whatever, or just the island or whatever, and then you have the kitchen sink and the window, and you shoot down the middle, and you have that balance on both sides, right? So some things that work horizontal don't work vertical, and vice versa.
Exactly.
In fact, a lot of stuff, really.
Yeah.
Exteriors of townhouses would be one of those things, right? We'd love to shoot them all vertically, but we can't, obviously, because of MLS not really preferring that format.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at our vertical video, right? That's been a huge
hit.
Adaptation and takeoff. Of the videos that we've done this year, almost a quarter of them have been vertical orientation videos.
Which I'm not surprised. Like, honestly, I'm kind of surprised that it's not like a third.
I think it's very quickly approaching that. Keep in mind that we really only officially launched vertical video option beginning of this year.
Wow.
Right? And so to have an immediate adoption of 25% of your video content being vertical, that's huge.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that the ones that aren't vertical, it's because there's just standard MLS horizontal. It's not that the agent's getting on camera, by and large, for a horizontal video. The ones that are getting on camera are getting on camera for vertical.
Yeah.
So, and you've seen that full well because of your interaction with clients.
Exactly. Yeah. I do feel like a lot of people like, even though they're nervous to get on camera, they're like almost feel obligated to do it, but also like they're just like, yeah, I want to put my face out there so that people know who they're talking to.
Yep.
And like that was the case before, but they would always just have like a headshot or something
Sure.
like that, which is not always the best representation. Like they look professional, yeah, but that's
It
not what
doesn't
they're
show the personality.
Exactly.
Right?
That's not what they're gonna look like every day.
No, for
Yeah,
sure. So, I mean, one of the advantages, of course, of the vertical video that we're shooting is that people get to introduce who they are.
Yep.
And that video itself has marketing efforts. It allows them to have a marketing effort well beyond the listing itself, because they're talking a little bit more about their personality as an agent than about that specific listing.
Exactly.
Right. So it becomes a marketing piece for the agent. And that's, I think, what we really need to keep taking a look at as to how we can support the agent long term and not just help with the sale of the house. Not that goal is a bad goal. I mean, obviously we want to help sell the house, but I think helping sell the agent is more important than selling the house.
Right.
Long term.
I will say, like, at least how we're doing it now, at least for me, for vertical video, you want it to be like 60 seconds or less, which isn't like enough time to show the personality of a realtor, you know? So it's like you want to show them really quickly in the beginning, maybe at the end, you know? So like it's still a little tough to find a fine line of we're showing the realtor, but also the property. Because in the end, they are selling the property. That's what they're trying to get out there and have people to see.
A both and. If you had it your way, what would happen? Like, give me a perfect scenario that you think would support the agent as well as the home sale. What kind of scenario would have to?
It really depends on like what the realtor, what they want their like image to be. Some people really, really want to be professional, and some people want to be trendy and do all the trends like on TikTok and stuff like that. I would say either like having a separate video of saying, this is who I am. These are the things that I like to do, like outside of being a realtor, and then being like, this is what I can do for you.
Sure.
And then after that, you'll still have your videos of this is 123 Main Street, welcome, whatever. Right. But like some people like will do the trends, and that's how they show their personality. Yep. Sometimes it's usually the younger crowd because they want to appeal to millennials or Gen Z.
Yeah, like, appealing to the demographic that's aging into home purchases and sales.
Exactly, exactly.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
But what you're saying here is that preferentially that clients should pick a path.
Yes.
Not try to accomplish all of it.
Really think about it. Really think about, who do I watch on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever, and like see like what makes me excited.
Sure.
What do I think is going to make me look the best, but also what makes me feel true to myself, kind of thing. Because you don't have to go the trend route if you don't even watch the trends. Yeah. Why would you put yourself in that position if you don't even know?
That's a real tough one to continue, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Like, maybe you saw one of the trends and you're like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, but you're not really staying on top of the overall trends. Exactly. And therefore you got that flash in the pan. And then after that, what?
Exactly. Right? Which, like, it's okay to do the trends once in a while, but you do have to keep up with it.
You do.
So, like, other than doing the trends, you can make your own trend kind of thing of just showing your own personality in the way that you want to.
Right. Now, obviously, one of the things that I say obviously, that's probably not even the right word. I think one of the hidden challenges with trend chasing, let's just call it that, right? Or trend following. If you're following trends, you're chasing an ever-moving target.
Yes.
Let's face it,
yes.
Right? And the problem with chasing an ever-moving target is that your marketing program is never actually settled. It's always changing. Mm-hmm. Now, that in itself is equally exhausting as it is rewarding.
Right.
If you are, in fact, all about constant adaptation. However, if you're one of the kinds of business owners that needs something that has regularity, that is not it.
Exactly.
And that is burnout. That's burnout territory. So I think one of the things that we ourselves as well as our audience needs to know and grow into is helping, not necessarily caution against trend chasing, but help define what the long-term ramifications of that are. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I feel like long-term is a good word because it's like, what do you think you can keep up with in your career?
It's applied. It's all about application and regularity, right?
Yeah.
So that consistency of how you're approaching your marketing campaign, whether it be that you choose to get on camera or that you choose not to, right?
Exactly.
Pick a path.
Because like some people can literally just have voiceovers for all of their videos, never have to put their face out there, but that's the style that they want to go with. So people will attribute that style to them.
Yep.
You know, I have realtors that have the energy of being on camera and putting on that.
And they thrive with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you don't have to do that, you know, but if you find that you really want to, it's like, yeah, go ahead and try it. Because you don't know until you try.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And if you try and the first time is a bumpy experience, try again.
Exactly. The first time is never great.
No. I had a wedding client years back and she told me, she goes, my rule is 3. The first time is to get over the shock. The second time is to get over the discomfort. And the third time is, do I actually like this?
Yep.
And so whether it be food or adventure or whatever it is, you know, having that rule of 3 is that real trial and error test of whether or not something's going to be passable.
That a lot of people, like the first time that they do video, they're like, oh my God, I hate how I sound. Oh my God, I hate how they look.
For sure.
And it's like, nobody likes how they sound. Nobody, like, even if they're a professional model, whatever.
Oh yeah.
They don't like how they sound.
Yeah.
They usually don't like how they look, but they know that they like doing this. So they're going to keep trying.
I love doing this podcast, but when Jen, when my wife, does like the reels to put up on socials to advertise for the podcast and she has her audio on, I hear my voice and I'm like, I hate my voice. I hate my voice. Because to me, I sound stuffy, nasally, congested. And even if I'm not, right? But I just have this, ear for myself that just, I have a very negative opinion about it. But if I let that be the thing that gets in the way of doing this, that's going to keep me from doing podcasts.
Exactly.
And honestly, I love the outcome of a podcast way more than I hate my voice.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good.
That's what it comes down to.
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
or I was going to say, like, obviously when you are in front of the camera, you do like freeze up sometimes. Even I do.
Oh yeah.
From like, I've been behind and in front of the camera a lot, but like being in front of the camera, looking at that black hole, you're like,
it is a black hole. And it's a faceless audience.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so what you need to do is you need to envision the audience behind it.
Yes.
Look at the camera and say, well, that's just a person that I'm talking to.
Yes, exactly.
But to embody a camera lens as a face or a person, that's a real difficulty for the first timer.
It is.
Right?
It is. Even the 3 times, like you said, even after the third time, it might still be really hard.
Yep.
But like sometimes when I record, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like put my face away from the camera.
Yeah. Stand off to the side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like even if they're looking at my face, I'm so close to the camera that it still looks like they're looking at the camera. Yeah. But that way they're talking to a person instead of
super helpful
this black lens.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And over time, that whole thing goes away. And so I think obviously one of the things that we need to reinforce with our clients is that it does take a while to adapt to it. And even if they're bumpy at first, there is success on the other side of that.
Exactly.
When was the last time you got something right on the first or second try?
Exactly.
And succeeded through life with it?
And I was going to say, like, kind of do your homework a little bit before the day before, let's say. Like, just kind of practice your lines a little bit. You don't have to have them 100% like memorized, but just like reading through your lines will kind of like help you like realize how you want to say it, just like the inflections in your voice and stuff like that. Yep. Even your face, your facial reactions and stuff like that, even how you move your hands. A lot of people are like, where do I put my hands?
What do I do with them?
What do I do with? And I'm like, just talk with your hands, you never want them to be like Barbie hands.
No, definitely. Barbie hands. That's good. No movement. No, talking with your hands, it's just a natural human trait.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that we can get, especially today, we can get away with a lot of brutal honesty and just simply being who you are than we could before.
Exactly.
Just from a social acceptance standpoint, right? And that's really important, I think, to be aware of when you're doing these things, is that a lot of the challenges that you think there are actually items that you're manufacturing for yourself.
Yes.
And so your perception of self.
Insecurities are basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right?
You make them all up in your head.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah.
You convince yourself that this is a debilitating factor, and you're like, it's over before it started.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that whole self-defeatism, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And so it keeps a lot of people from achieving what they consider to be success or progression or whatever.
Right.
Because there's that fear. Right. So I think that getting over that hump of fear just through the encouragement that you're talking about is a fantastic way to do it.
I will say, like, I'm usually really good at being like, oh no, that was really good. Like, maybe let's try one more time.
Sure.
Like, you did this part a little bit too fast, so let's just go a little bit slower. But sometimes it gets really hard when somebody's just like self-deprecating the whole time. They're just like, oh no, I hated that take. I hated that. I hated that. I hated that. And then in my head, I'm like, okay, it kind of makes me defeated a little bit. And I'm still trying to have that positive attitude, but I'm like, even if you continuously the whole session are like, oh no, I hated that, then obviously I'm not going to feel that good about it either.
No, for sure. So one of the things that kept me from pursuing portraiture was exactly that.
Yeah.
Like, I have to tell you, I'd say at least 75 to 80% of the clients that I was working with early on, they started the sessions by saying, I hate having my photo taken. Yes. And I'm like, that's like going on a date and being like, I hate relationships.
I hate dating.
That's not great. That's not a good start.
Exactly.
Right? And if you lead with that, what happens is the individual that you're entering into a relationship with, whether it be your photographer for a portrait or a future spouse or whatever it might be, they're automatically on the, okay, I have to bring my A game or it's going to be hell to pay.
Exactly.
And that's really hard. That's a lot of pressure for a photographer or a videographer to bring on a consistent basis. Obviously, as business professionals, we're called to bring that to our clientele every day. However, to be put on notice at the beginning of a photo shoot or a video shoot like that, it's really super challenging. Yeah. Really super challenging. How do you keep yourself sane in between?
In between, I feel like I'm really lucky that like we have such different properties that we go to that it does keep it fresh that way. Yep. It's not like I'm doing just video or agent on camera for every single property. Yeah. I think that's what kind of keeps me sane, that is just different every day.
Kind of like the meandering or the oscillation of
services. Yeah. I would say definitely the oscillation is just like, even if I'm going from just doing floor plans from one house to doing photos and video to the next house, it kind of then turns on that different part of the brain.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's just like keeping it fresh.
Yeah.
Not always repeating the same thing that you're doing. Because I think when you repeat the same thing every single day, you kind of forget why you're doing that thing, or you kind of like forget to look for new ideas, and that way you're just so stuck in this routine of this is how I do things. If you're doing the same thing every day. All
right. Okay. I love that feedback. That's good. Yeah. That's really good. When I was in the field, I would never. We talked about oscillation. So photos, video, and floor plans, right? Each one of those technologies require a different utilization of your brain. Yeah. Right? I could never get the hang of swapping between photos and video on a room-to-room basis.
Okay.
All right. Dylan and Keith, they've mastered it. Yeah. Right? And to the point where it blows my mind, because if I try to do that, I am so fatigued by the end of the day, by the end of the shoot, not just the day, the shoot, that I don't want to do it anymore. However, if I go through the entire home and do photos only, set that aside, I can shut that area of my brain off and say, nope, I don't have to double check anything. And I think it's more of an anxiety thing for me. Okay. And then I pick up the video camera and I go through and I do that whole thing because I'm in that mindset, right? It's that mode. If I mode switch, it's so exhausting for me, How do you feel about
So
that?
I would hate doing it from room to room, like switching room to room. That does sound exhausting.
Yeah.
What I usually do is do the whole floor of photos first, then do video on that
way
same
people can
floor.
transition from level to level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's more just convenient that way.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. But in my head, I love doing it floor by floor.
Sure.
Just like kind of like a checkbox, like, okay, done with the first floor, check.
Okay.
Now on
do you
to
do
the
that
second
with floor
floor.
plans too?
No, usually I leave floor plans like last and kind of go through the whole house with the floor plan with the iPad.
You usually do it last?
Yeah,
That's
I usually
interesting.
do it
Okay,
last.
that's the opposite of what I do.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
I do the floor plans first.
Okay.
So that I can, while I'm doing floor plans, pick up on photo ideas.
Okay.
While I'm walking through in a bit more fine-tooth comb. And usually, dirty secret, agents leave you alone when you're doing floor plans.
Yeah.
And so what I'll normally do is I'll use that time to have kind of a strategy being put into my head and start gathering a list of questions to dump onto the agent when I'm done that level. Where I'll be like, all right, look, I'm done with the first floor for floor plans and I noticed X, Y, and Z. And then I'm upstairs while they're taking care of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So that by the time I'm back downstairs, it's go time, right? And so this is like, something that I do to game my way through my day is what I've done in the past, but that's interesting.
I feel like when I do floor plans, I like leaving it last because I can slightly turn off my brain and not have to do the creative looking around part.
Fair.
Yeah. So like when I'm doing floor plans, it's just mainly math. So, and I always say that doing floor plans is kind of like a puzzle. So you're just like
Very much is a puzzle.
trying to fit rooms into each other.
It's
like,
totally a puzzle. Yep.
I don't know, like I wouldn't say I hate doing it first, but I definitely feel like when I'm doing floor plans, I'm not like looking around at the same time.
That's fair.
Yeah, so
That's
I
fair.
feel like even if I did it first, I would still be missing a lot of things that
Perfectly
I would
fine.
take pictures of later.
I feel like everybody needs to find a method that works for them and then stick with that, right? But it is about exploring the different methods that are available. Like I could never adopt the photo video per room basis. I couldn't do it.
Right.
Like if there was an exception where the homeowner was working from home and I had to scoot in there to do both and then shut the door and be done, that's fine. That's a very isolated incident. Or even floor to floor, like you're talking, I can do that as well. But if it's like a room to room or even like a couple of rooms to room, can't do it.
The only time I really do that is if there's like stuff we have to move, we put it all into one room and then like later on take it out.
Isolated cases, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. Tell me a little bit about, so you've expressed a lot of interest in the past for staging.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this like side love, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, so I do really want to look into like taking courses for it.
Yep.
I just love making things look pretty.
Sure.
I love fluffing up pillows or setting up like flowers in a kitchen or something like that.
Why is that satisfying for you?
I think it's just like giving a room life almost. Just like giving it color. I feel like I'm such a person who loves color, even like with tattoos and stuff. I have friends that are like, oh, only black and white tattoos. And I'm like, I only want color tattoos. I love color and just vibrancy. You know, instead of like having just a white room, let's put some flowers in there. Let's put some green in there, make it come to life a little bit.
Sure.
So like, I just love like the satisfaction of seeing really good staging. Sometimes I go into a house and I'm like, who is your stager? Because they did an awesome job.
Sure.
And like, I love it when staging knows how to stage for photography instead of just living there. Cause it is different. It's very different.
Tell our listeners about that. Go. I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
Yeah. So, okay. Staging. If you love your house staged for pictures, you're going to love it staged to live there as well. Living in a place that's staged is just going to be so much more organized. It's going to help you find ways to live more comfortably instead of like how you are used to things. Obviously, like I'm like a hypocrite a little bit. My house is like an organized mess.
Yeah, no.
Right?
I'm a contractor's son.
Yeah.
We never had a finished house.
Right.
Okay. Like it's the cobbler's kids have no shoes or something like that. Right. So you don't, that's like one of those disclaimers. A nurse's home, stereotypically, apparently is never clean. I
Yeah.
can neither confirm nor deny. All I know is that makes sense. Don't worry about it.
So like even like just organizing your room, cleaning your room, obviously your mind feels a little bit better after that. If you have your house staged, they know what future buyers are looking for
Sure.
and what looks good
Yep.
in pictures. I have had like houses before that I'm like, okay, I want to move this and this and this. And the homeowners are a little bit like, no, I don't want to move that. And I'm like, okay, I want to look nice and brand new, almost like a hotel. And they're like, no, I don't want it to look like a hotel.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's
There's
what
some strong feelings on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what you could always talk to a stager about, being like, I don't want it to look like a hotel. I want it to look like a home, but a nice, clean, staged, like homey home.
Yeah,
you know?
that makes sense.
Yeah.
You had said you had said a brief quip about staging for photography is different from staging for living.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah. So I would say a lot of the times it's in the corners of the room. So either they do have stuff that will fill up a corner of a room so it doesn't look so barren. And sometimes they don't have anything in the corners of the room because they know I'm going to stand there and take a picture from that angle to get a long, wide picture of like a living room, let's say.
Yep.
So I think stagers, like, you do need some practice and a year or two of doing staging to really know. So for stagers, like, just a tip, like, after you're done staging, take pictures with your phone. Try and take it horizontally, since that's what we're usually going to do. And that way you can see through the eye of the lens instead of just your eyes. Because like we said before, it's kind of different, you know? Very. So I would say, like, staging wise, a lot of stagers are really good about like putting items to accentuate like the architecture of the house.
Yep.
So, and like, they're also really good about like putting stuff there, but not making it look crowded, because a lot of our homes look crowded with all of the everyday things we have. Like,
that's the thing,
it's hard
right?
to live that way.
You can, I guess. A lot of people don't explore the options available to them for how to live in a consolidated manner.
Exactly.
I guess that's probably the most diplomatic way of saying that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and a lot of people, myself included, wherever the furniture lands when you move in,
That's where it stays. yeah, that's
right?
very true.
A lot of times we don't take the opportunities that, down months, like whether it be winter or rain days or whatever, afford us to redesign our home environment.
Exactly.
Right. Unless you're doing a whole remodeling project, in which case everything's, from scratch. Still though, a lot of people after the remodeling project is done, they might get new furniture, but it lands exactly in the same spot where the other one was.
And that's
before.
what working with a stager is really nice, that like they either have gone to school or taken courses to know like where everything works and where you'll have the most space.
Yep.
Like, let's say you put a couch here always, but if you actually put it in the other side of the room, it'll give you so much more space to literally lay down on the floor or something like that, or have your kids play on the floor.
Sure.
I know a lot of like my house, it is hard to like imagine if I put the bed here, will I have more space here? Yeah. I've seen videos of people having like a 2D, like just a piece of paper, cutting out papers that represent like the couch or the bed or whatever.
Take some of that math grid paper that you'd have in geometry and assign either 6-inch or 1-foot squares, right?
Yeah.
And then through those squares, cut out your sizes of your furniture and your size of your room, and then start digitally, physically moving those things around on the 2D.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And that's an easy way of like showing it to you physically instead of like having to imagine it in your mind, because that's the hard part.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people struggle with visual reasoning when it comes to their belongings more than they just struggle with visual reasoning to begin with. Right. Because they have blinders on, and it's not because they're trying to have them. It's that I think that, and this is across all spectrums of life. We're so used to what we are, what we do, what we believe, what we think, that a lot of times it's really difficult to consider alternatives. and particularly in your home environment where you're feeling most comfortable, it's a big ask for someone to be vulnerable, to say, hey, mi casa, su casa, and move my furniture wherever you want, right? That's a big trust exercise.
It is a lot of trust. And like, so hopefully you find somebody that you can trust in their style, or like to trust to hear you out as well. Cause some stagers might hear what you're saying, but then completely want to do what they want to do. And it's like, you know, you got to find a middle ground in there.
Yep. It's like going to a restaurant and asking for a medium rare steak and getting it well done either way.
Right.
You know, and you might have taken my order the right way, but they didn't listen to what my requests actually were. And it's important that you have a stager that really identifies what those must-haves are for the homeowner, because it's a both and. You need to help sell the home by staging it to make it appear to the best of its capacity to the viewer, while also satisfying the existing client that lives there.
Yeah.
Because if you do one to sacrifice the other, you're going to win at neither.
Right.
And so you need to find a compromise, a balance in there. So you had talked about placement of furniture in the corners, and that was a resounding yes, absolutely. But in addition to that, I would argue that there's some further consideration. Obviously, that was a generalization, right? One of the stickiest parts that I had when I was photographing homes, whether it be staged or not, is particularly the old colonial homes that had those elongated living room / dining room combos.
Okay.
But people eventually just turned them into only living rooms.
Yeah.
And they set up a couch or a love seat or whatever right where the fireplace is, halfway through the living room.
Yes.
So it doesn't really function as anything.
Yes.
Right? So they block off the room in such a fashion where it's just this really long living room that's ill-utilized, right?
Yeah.
And they have, of course, the slider at the back and the bay window at the front.
Yep.
And the bay window has maybe like a reading nook, and the slider has maybe an office desk or whatever. So they have basically 3 rooms in one. Those are terribly challenging to photograph because you don't really have any room definition whatsoever, because you have that whole 3-in-1. It's best to break them down and to have 2 sides. So you have maybe your playroom side and then your dining room side or your living room side, right? That way you're able to stand in the middle and photograph only one end.
Exactly.
And then stand in the middle and photograph just the other.
Right. Like being able to separate the room into 2, even though it's just one.
Yeah.
But even like for photography, we're going to show the whole space, see like in a wide picture, showing you how the like current people have utilized the room, but we'll also kind of separate it to show you can have like multiple functions in this room. Type of thing.
Yeah, it's particularly difficult in that environment, right? Because they're usually only like maybe 12 or 14 feet wide by 22, 24 feet long. Right. That's a significant ratio. That's a 1-to-2 ratio. And so having that ratio, and then of course, you know, the builders put the fireplace right in the middle. Right? What are they thinking exactly? Because that's an anchor point, right? And so having to honor the anchor point by putting the living room itself also in the middle, that's real big trouble.
That also kind of goes into, so like depends on like what year the home was built, but it also goes into
I'm talking like mid 80s.
Right. So it's like, it goes into like in that year, they probably like, they didn't really have a lot of TVs. Not every room had a TV. So they probably, that was the main room, you know? So it's a different function in that room when it was built to like now.
That's true. And in that year, TVs were never above the fireplace. Oh, I never even thought about that. Good point, Crystal.
Yeah.
TVs weren't above the fireplace. Yeah. We didn't have flat screens.
People used fireplaces just to sit around it, you know, like, or roast marshmallows, you know, like.
Which is where the advent of the den came from, right? The den was the TV room, right? And so they had their corner TV or whatever, regardless of year. And then, of course, the great room started introducing the jumbo cheap TVs and stuff like that. It's interesting how technology influences our living habits.
Oh, right. And like, so it then goes into like how technology influences like where we place the furniture, like we said. Like we don't really think about how we're living is affecting our like mood even. Because sometimes like I kind of said before, when you clean your whole house, you just feel a little bit happier, a little bit lighter sometimes. So that also goes in like how your furniture is placed, honestly, where everything is. You are going to get used to it, but is that the best place for it? You know?
And that kind of lends to the whole Zen Feng Shui kind of way of living, right? And that whole segment of thought really applies toward the placement of everything for a purpose. And some of the purposes are somewhat superstitious. Others are actual functions.
Right.
And obviously there's a blend of all that, and we're not getting into that, but it really speaks toward that kind of mindset.
Exactly.
And
just doing things purposefully.
bingo.
Purposefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a hard word to say.
Yeah. And even something like a computer, right?
Yeah.
Prior to laptops being really our go-to machine for PC or Mac, whatever, it was desktop computing. And desktop computing really required the use of a desk. And now with laptops, your desk can really be anywhere.
Exactly.
It's your kitchen island.
Exactly.
And for a lot of people, it's their peninsula, right?
Yeah.
Or their dining table, or their second, they have the eat-in kitchen, they have their dining room. Their dining rooms become their makeshift office.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so even things like that change how we live significantly.
Even I don't know. At least in my house, we had kind of an eat-in kitchen, so we had the dining room table there. We always ate our meals there.
Yep.
I don't know if people even really use a dining room anymore.
If there's an eat-in kitchen and a dining room, I feel like that's really redundant.
Yeah.
I truly believe
it might just be if you have a party and you have more than 5 people
perhaps,
or whatever.
But if you're using it just at Christmas and Thanksgiving, really, do you need it?
Right.
And I'm not questioning whether or not someone needs the space. It's more along the lines of utilizing it to the best of its abilities.
Exactly.
Right.
Can you put a smaller table maybe and then have your desk there?
For sure. Yeah. For sure. I, if I were a builder, would do away with the eat-in kitchen as well as the dining room option.
Right.
I would pick a path.
Yeah.
Have either your eat-in kitchen be large enough so that it accommodate a full 8 people dining table, or dispense with it entirely, stick with strictly the kitchen that has a separate dining room.
Yes.
Right? Not both.
Yes.
Because I feel like it's the redundancy, it's the additional expense of the furniture because you're now having 2 copies of your table. It's the additional cleaning, the maintenance, upkeep. And then of course you're walking through a space that you just look at every day.
Yes. Yeah. You're not utilizing it.
Right.
So that it just kind of catches dust.
I have my curio in there and my hutch, and that still happens.
Right.
So you have all these tchotchkes that are kind of just, occupying the shelves. So it's definitely it's a collector. Yeah. Right.
Or I've seen a lot of people use the dining room, let's say, as a pool table room.
Yeah.
And I think that's a better use for the room, honestly.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially one that has that flat top that can be a ping pong or whatever, So, that's good. I know that if I had a room like that, I would probably utilize that as maybe a study room or something like that for the girls and stuff. And I know that if Keith or Dylan had a room like that, they would turn it into their D&D outpost,
a little game room.
We have everyone's going to utilize that space differently. And I'm not saying that the room itself is worthless or not of good use. It's that we should definitely really consider some of those design aspects that really lend to complicating our life and creating chaos. I really appreciated hearing your thoughts on architecture, staging, photography. Really that kind of dovetails into life thoughts. And I know who you are as an individual, and a lot of that bleeds through your personality, bleeds through to your work, and your work bleeds through to your personality, right? There's a lot of synchronicity there.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that about you. You're yourself wherever you go. And that to me speaks volumes.
Yeah. I try.
I feel anyway, I don't feel like, there's a Crystal, a professional mask and then a public mask kind of thing.
I try to blur those lines a lot, but I think if you talk to my sister, I'm definitely a lot more laid back at home, or even honestly, with her, I'm a little more type A than I am with other people.
That's siblings.
That's siblings. Exactly.
We'll have Daniela on at some point. We can have her hot take on that one. But no, I think there's going to be a degree in that no matter where you go, what you do. But I think as far as your thoughts on it sounds to me like you really enjoy a different segment of your job than I do when I do the same thing.
Okay.
And that to me says that you've personalized it to yourself.
Yes.
And that's important.
Yeah. Cause like, I don't remember where I heard this, but it kind of like, stuck to me one day that like, where you work, like you want to work with your friends, you know, usually you want to work with your friends. You want to, if you have coworkers that you don't know, you want to get to know them and become friends with them. And then that way your work doesn't feel so much like work.
Yeah.
It becomes something that you want to do every day.
Right.
So like with going to different houses every day, I try and like get to know the realtor, but also the homeowners.
They're technically your coworkers.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because we're hands off.
Exactly.
You know? The only time you hear from me is when we come and meet in the office.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I like that personally because it lets you do what you like to do and how you do it with your clients. And I say your clients because while they're part of Mador Photography, it's you who's servicing them, right? And so your personality, your adaptation, you guys get to know each other. There's that things are just symbiotic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Exactly.
And because of that, it makes going to work less like work and more like just part of my life.
Exactly.
Right? I've really appreciated having you here because
Thank you.
you bring that outlook into how you conduct yourself with our clients. And I know I can speak for them on this, that based on their resounding, appreciation and the reviews and the feedback that we've gotten, people really enjoy working alongside of you, and having you help manage their brand effectively.
Yeah.
Because we're part of their team.
Right.
And you're part of our team.
Yeah.
But our team is part of their team, right?
Exactly.
And there's this whole trickle down thing,
Yeah.
right? And that's really important to recognize and honor. And I hope that I do a good job of that, translating that to you guys.
Yeah.
And I know that for my part, it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Yeah. Like I was going to say too, like I guess, like I so how I said that I do blur the line between like friends and professional because like I do always put my best foot forward, want to be professional, but at the same time I want the client to know like you can break down your wall a little bit to me.
Let your hair down a bit.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be.
This isn't stiff.
Exactly. When I do have those clients that it's like strictly business, I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's do this.
Those are tough to get through.
Yeah.
Unless it's a vacant property, in which case you're like, I'm done, right?
Right.
But if it's a home that you have to fluff and stage and move room to room and have conversation, but it's cold conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so taxing.
Yeah.
So taxing.
Exactly.
So another message to our clients: be yourself.
Yeah, be yourself.
Be yourself.
Be yourself. Ask some personal questions if you want. Like I'm always an open book.
Yep.
I'm never gonna like get mad at somebody.
No.
know?
I think we have a very level-headed team.
Yeah.
Which is really awesome. And one of the things I would actually officially say as well is that, what our clients say to us stays with us. Like we are not regurgitators at all.
Right.
Unfortunately, we hear a lot about a lot of different people, right? And we don't repeat it.
Yeah.
And the reason why we don't repeat it is because that's not our business.
Exactly.
Our business is to help them sell homes and help them market themselves. And if that person is the competitor to that other person who's also our client,
I'm not gonna blur that line. Yeah.
We don't care.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
I'm just gonna like treat everybody as their own person.
Bingo.
I'm not gonna take what I heard before and apply that to the next person.
Really important.
Yeah.
It's really important because that way we have their confidence, you know, and it is about building that confidence and that trust, that relationship, and breaking down the walls like you're talking about, because at that point, then we can really understand what it is they truly need from us and how we can best help them, what kind of style they're seeking, what really piques their interest. Do they like it when we take a lot of time to go do that little minute staging, or to them, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Right? And if it doesn't matter, maybe it's wasted and you do the thing that does matter to them, right? If they really light up when it comes to like a clean pool, maybe instead of staging inside the home, you vacuum the pool, right? And I'm not suggesting to go do that, but there was one, just a quick side note, there was one client years back, and Samantha, my oldest daughter, was with me at the photo shoot, and I won't repeat her name. She says to me, she goes, She was literally cleaning the pool. It was a realtor. She was vacuuming the pool, and there was some sediment on the bottom and stuff. And I had already finished inside, and we were just chilling in the backyard, and I was helping her tidy some furniture and stuff. And she looks at me, she goes, "Boy, if my mom could see me right now." She goes, "Never once in my childhood did I ever clean the pool, and here I am doing it for the client." And so it was one of those things where like, I'm not going to repeat whoever said that. And it's just one of those things where, you do what needs to get done
exactly
for the job at hand.
Yeah.
To a degree.
I've been at houses that I literally pick up a broom and start sweeping, and then the realtor's like, "Oh, you don't have to do that." And I'm like, "It's okay. You're doing that. Let me just help you out."
If they're busy doing something productive to help us get out of there, I will help right alongside them.
And so that does go into like sometimes if I find that the realtor doesn't care kind of thing, like about what the house looks like, then I'm not really gonna care. Yep. I'll still care a little bit. I'll still fix a chair here and there, but
you're not gonna be blatant about it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not gonna be super specific about how this blanket is over the chair if the realtor doesn't seem to care either.
Yep.
If the realtor does care about how their listing looks, then it makes me care. Mm-hmm. It's just
you're matching.
Yes, I'm matching the energy that is in there.
Yep. And that's important.
Yeah.
That's important. And that's particularly difficult, obviously, if the energy is low or maybe negative, right?
Yes.
And so you have to like rise above sometimes. But generally speaking, a lot of realtors bring their A game to the table. And when they do,
and we see
and we recognize that, you can best know that we're bringing out our A game alongside of it.
And some realtors don't even know that is A game. It's just what they do.
That's their values.
Yeah. And I love that.
Matching values is a very important part of business. Yeah. So, well, Crystal, it's really been awesome sitting down with you and hearing this from you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Very welcome.